Welcome to Gorilla Physics Live. If you're probably watching this, you're probably actually catching up afterwards. So remember then to subscribe to Gorilla Physics and to actually click the little notification icon so you can see me every time I go live. I'm just doing some live streams really. It's the first few times I've tried this on the run up into the exams this year. I might do more or less depending on how popular they are. So let me know that you like them and let me know if you've got questions that you want ideas for the next live stream. This live stream is going to be about priorities for revision, just running into these exams in this bit here. So don't forget though, if you are watching later, that you can still open the live chat and you can still see what everybody's saying, just in case I'm responding to some things and I'm not saying what they actually are. In the show notes, so at any time during this, go into the description and you can see I've put the kind of things that I'm talking about, and I've put some most useful of my playlists, and I've put some links to kind of recommended texts and textbooks that you can buy that are going to be useful for you as well. Okay, hiya, how are we doing? So it's great to see some people here. As I said, let's get on with it. Let's get on with priorities for revision at this point, when we've only got really a month just before the exams. And these are my priorities for GCSE and for A Level, okay? Slightly different, I guess, in terms of how you've got to approach them for GCSE and for A Level. But my first priority for all of you is equations. Do you know your equations, okay? You don't need to memorize them for A Level, but you do need to know your way around the formula sheet. Do you know that formula sheet like the back of your hand? I mean, I have so many copies of my formula sheet for A Level lying around, okay, because I want to be able to refer to them just like instantly, okay? It is the most important thing. In fact, it contains most of the answers. For you, for GCSE, you don't really have the luxury of that. You do have a formula sheet, but with far fewer formulas on it because you need to memorize the equations for GCSE physics now. So a little plug, if you need something to help you memorize the equations for GCSE physics, then my book is out now and there's a link to it in the description as well. It's now out on paperback. You can buy that and Amazon will send you one in a day. Great question. I'll come back to questions if that's okay just in a little while. I'm just going to launch through my kind of a few things that I've got planned, and then I'll look back through the chat in about 5 minutes and I'll answer those questions. There's really good questions that we're already seeing coming up now. Okay, so that's the first priority. Memorize equations, or make sure you know your way around the formula sheet. Make sure you know which units, everything like that. You need to make sure you know when you'd likely use all of those equations in A Level. Practicals are next. Practicals are a new thing in GCSE and A Level in terms of the way that they're assessed. So you need to know them by heart. And in fact, one of my playlists is a practicals playlist. So check that one out. Make sure you know them really, really well. Make sure you just go back over your own notes on the practicals. You know the method, you know the types of analysis you need to do, the graphs you need to draw, the equations you need to use, and make sure you know some improvements to those practicals, so some evaluative points. Okay? And my last priority is about strategy. Now, this is the individual one. I think for this new syllabuses, we all need to be focusing on these two more than kind of usual. But right now, at this time, a minute, if it was only a minute to go before the exam, we would be struggling. But a month before the exams, you need to be focused on your strategy. You need to be taking that syllabus apart and focusing on the areas that matter most to you. So do that, make sure that you actually are doing the revision that matters most to you. Okay, one question I had off the back of the last live stream was about definitions for GCSEs. Now, I haven't got many definitions, but I'm going to talk about these kind of common definitions that come up in GCSE and A Level, okay? And I'm going to point you in the show notes. You can see two links to the waves page and to the motion page in my website, because what I've done in my website is I've written some GCSE definitions. Now, when you learn definitions of GCSE and A Level, you need to learn them rote. You need to learn them exactly how they appear in the textbook, in the syllabus, because we are looking for the absolutely specific definitions. Okay, so let's talk about the absolutely specific and the mistakes that people make when they do these ones. So longitudinal waves, they talk about side-to-side waves, and transverse waves, they talk about up and down waves. But no, that's not good enough. You have to relate the direction of energy transfer to the direction of oscillation. Okay, so for longitudinal waves, the direction of energy transfer is parallel to the direction of oscillation. For transverse waves, the direction of energy transfer is perpendicular to the direction of oscillation. Okay, you need to get those two things, the energy transfer and the oscillation, linked. Okay, scalar and vector is such a simple definition, Okay, scalars have only magnitude, whereas vectors have magnitude and direction. But it's a crucial one to learn because you're going to miss out on some extra marks if you don't know that this is an important definition. Some quantities are vector and direction matters hugely. Okay. As I say, these are great questions. I will take a break. I've just got one more thing to kind of run through and then I'll sum up at the end, but I'll do questions in just a moment. Because Ayoub asked a really good question about A-level and waves. A-level, waves get really quite hard at A-level. Now Ayoub and everybody really, it is about understanding these things. Okay, I hope you recognize that straight away is a sine wave. Okay, so all waves correspond to sine waves, and I've deliberately left the axes kind of empty, apart from an important numerical, important number, the pi there, okay? So anything could really be on this axis. It could be velocity, it could be displacement, or it could be acceleration, okay? And anything could be on this axis. It could be time, it could be displacement, anything like that. But all waves correspond to that shape. So understanding trig and applying our sine wave ideas lets us work out accelerations, work out displacement at any kind of point in a wave in space or in time. So you need to understand that this is where it all comes from. All of waves really come from circular geometry, or triangles actually. And it's about those triangles fitting inside the circles. So this is why we have these equations here, and the number pi, or in this case 2 pi, because a full wave cycle or a full circle has got 2 pi radians in it. So even if a wave has travelled a full wavelength, it's done a full wave cycle, it's done 2 pi radians of its phase space. Okay, and here's another one. So this is for simple harmonic motion actually, but waves are examples of simple harmonic motion. This is the x, this is the displacement, the position, and it's related to the amplitude by the cosine of omega, which is the angular velocity times by the time. Now actually, if we differentiate that, because x, the displacement differentiated with respect to time will give you the velocity, then we get minus the amplitude is the angular velocity times sine times the angular velocity times time, okay? So that's that sine wave cropping up again, okay? To tell us, well, if we want to work out the velocity at any point in time, we can use this equation here. And lastly, the acceleration is also linked. This is the second differential of that first equation with respect to time. We've just differentiated one more, just like with our motion graphs, and we've got omega squared, minus a omega squared cos omega t. So this, I just wanted to say that to you really, if you're struggling with waves at A level, you've got to get your head around this idea of this phase space, measuring where we are on a wave in terms of an angle, in terms of a number of pi's. Okay, I hope that answers your question. If not, then you just let me know and I'll have a little look at that again. Okay, so let's have a look at what your kind of questions for right now are. Okay, so I'm just going to get my chat back up and go right back to the top if I can. Oh, it's only letting me see some of it. Why is that? That's a nuisance. Oh, what are grade 9 questions in physics going to be like? Okay, well, there isn't actually specifically a grade 9 question. There's not a grade 9 skill. There's not a grade 9 skill. One of my videos about how actually we're going to give you a grade 9 is not based on extra skills. It's based on being in this top tiny percentage. And I've got a video where I explain, if you look, how do you get a grade 9, rather than what do you need to do to get one. How do you get one? I explain how that grade 9 is actually worked out. In this book, for example, though, I've given some hard ones at the end, and calculation questions wise, you're going to have to do really well in all of those calculation ones. And the kind of new calculation they brought in is this 2-step calculation. Now, you A-level students will be fully aware of how to do 2-step calculations. So essentially, you need to calculate something and then use that number, use that answer to calculate a second thing. Okay, so they're normally going to be worth like 4, 5, or 6 even marks, and you have to apply one formula and then apply another. And in A-level, you might be used to doing that by deriving a new equation rather than actually calculating a thing, but by making up a new equation by sandwiching 2 equations together. Okay, but that's one of the hard calculation questions. Now, I think for getting a grade 9, I think you need to be really hot on your, comes back to my priorities, you need to be really hot on your practicals and the evaluations of the practicals, and also coming up with new practicals. So they could ask you to design a practical which is like one of the core practicals but not exactly the same as that. And that would be those really hard skills, the evaluate skill, and also the kind of designer skill, the creation skill. Hope that helps with the grade 9 questions, okay? Let me know. That was a really good question. I get all the context from the textbooks and revision for topics like SHM and oscillations and magnetism, but I don't have a clue about 50% of the exam questions on the topics. George, you, buddy, you are in like the same boat as most other A-level students, okay? So don't be like put off or anything like that, because everybody's thinking that about the exams, and we all get like that. Even your teachers, okay? I take out an A-level question and I look at it sometimes, and it takes me a couple of minutes sometimes to get my head around which part of the syllabus even this is really about. And that's what you need to get used to doing. Actually, yes, you do get all the stuff. When you look at the kind of topics on magnetism, you get it, I understand it, I'm absolutely fine with that. Okay, and oscillations, and you get it and everything like that. Then the exam question comes on, and it doesn't say at the top, like it did in GCSE maybe, this is a question about oscillations, this is a question about magnetism. It just tells you about some context that they're asking you to actually apply that to. So you have to really get used to working out the content that context is pointing you to. So you need to get used to reading those contexts and actually figuring out which part of the syllabus you need to apply to, because then that stuff you did understand, then you bring that and you apply it and you work out, and it becomes a habit. All right, so it's about practice, buddy, okay, so you can do it. I did say in one of my previous videos, I did say that actually these books, these SHAP books, are why the ones that I used to teach with in my school, because they are taught through context, and they're always applying content to the context. They're in the kind of the textbooks link on my website, which is down in the thing if you want to have a look at buying them. Okay, I think there's been a couple more. What should we help to do this? I think that was back about the practicals. Yeah, make sure that you've got, they're in all the revision guides, okay? Make sure that you've got a full list with a full method of all the practicals. Okay, go back to your teacher and say, I don't really fully understand the practicals. Are there things that you can give me that will help me understand all the practicals? Like, for example, the textbooks that we use for our GCSE, they have all the practicals at the back. So you've got to go and find those, and you've got to, I would make maybe flashcards, but really detailed ones with the methods, with the analysis, and with the improvements, okay? Yeah, cheers, no problem, H123, that's awesome. Thanks for the question. All right, yeah, absolutely, everyone is in the same boat. Best way to revise, that was one of the things I was going to get onto actually. A lot of people think it's about notes, and I said to my class today, I can't even remember, it's been such a hot day, isn't it? I was in the computer room with the air conditioning, and it was awesome, okay? But it's hot in my classroom right now, so I'm struggling to think. But it was about notes, right? There's a few things, when you write now and you've got the really good intentions, there's a few things that are going to get in the way of you doing really well in your revision. And those are, I'm just going to limit it to two actually, distractions. You're going to get home from school with all the right materials, ready to go, ready to revise, and the first thing you're going to do is think, oh, quick game of FIFA, all right? Okay, or whatever your normal distractions are, okay, because we're not all into computer games. But you're gonna think, right, I'll just play one game. It'll only take 20 minutes, that's fine. Then I'm off and I can revise. And then you find yourself an hour later, and then it's dinner time, and then it's, oh, you know, I've not got the energy that I had, not got the enthusiasm that I had. So you need to make sure you avoid that. So avoiding distractions is really important. And then secondly is actually, when you do get to revising, you don't do the types of activities that really help. And you end up just getting the revision guide out and doing the notes and doing the notes and writing out notes, or just reading and reading and reading, and you're not really engaging. Now, I can remember studying really hard for my A-levels, okay, especially my A-levels. And I can remember really sitting, like wringing my hair, thinking, why don't I get this? Why don't I get this derivation? Why don't I get this page of questions? Why can't I do this skill? And it took me actually going ahead and just forcing myself to do it, and looking and going, and when I couldn't get it, I really was struggling, then I'd take a tea break or whatever, and I'd come back to it and I'd figure it out. And it's about just repeatedly going over and over and over and being that determined person to get it right. So don't be distracted and do the right things. Keep yourself active. Don't just do notes and reading. Do lots of questions and stuff like that. Okay, I think there's a couple more questions, but that's it. Okay, yeah. One thing I found useful, yeah, exactly. Listing what you have and working out which equation you can use. I think that's a really good tip. Okay, it's about having that methodical approach to questions. And I do have a video which talks about methodical approach to physics questions, either written or calculation questions. It's about often what information do you have, what equations do you have that have those things in it, and therefore they're like the tools to solving the problem. All right, absolutely awesome. I'm going to pretty much sum it up. Right now, unless there's anything else from you guys. Okay, it's been awesome hanging out. Okay, I just want to say that one of the things I did in one of my previous videos was I set myself a target to get to 10k subs. Right, so now you guys, obviously you're here, you've obviously been notified or you've seen my live thing and you're interested. Can you help me out by sharing this video out, or sharing a video that's helped you out a lot? Okay, or just telling your friends, telling your teachers at school, anything like that. Okay, I want to get there by sort of March next year. Okay, it's a big target because I'm on about 4k now. Okay, and I know this is a bit of a plug. Okay, that's not what you're here for, but if I help you out, then that really helps me out in the future. Okay, so I'd really, I'd really appreciate that. Okay, I think that's everything for me. There was one more question just there. Somebody struggles a lot with maths and find every time I revise, I just end up panicking and anxiety sets in. Yeah, I know, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm just saying. Any tips on how to manage this? You gotta stop and have a cup of tea and just talk to your parents or something about it, or talk to your mate, or go for a quick walk, or whatever your sport is that you like to play, or that's when a good game of FIFA can sort out the anxiety. So something like that, I think. And you got to think to yourself that, yeah, some of these bits of the GCSEs are designed to be really, really, really hard. They have to sort the grade 9s from the grade 8s. They have to sort the A stars from the A. So don't panic. Don't let it bother you. You're going to do your absolute best because you're going to work hard on it. And there's going to be two possible grades that you're going to get right in summer. One that you're happy with and one that you're not. And the one that you're happy with is you're happy with it because you've worked hard, okay? And the person that is not happy with it knows they could have done better, they could have done more. So do you think, I don't think going through past papers is enough to get an A star, no, because you've got to be really creative. And I find a lot of people who just do past papers, the problem is that then they learn only how to do those questions and they don't have the wide kind of knowledge of physics to be resilient enough to tackle all the different contexts. And yeah, I've got a video and a whole playlist, how do you get an A star in A level physics, all right? So have a little look at that. It's got some great tips and everything like that. It comes down to really being fascinated and working harder than everybody. I'm going to stop after this last one question. If there is another one, because I'm ready to, it's almost 20 minutes to this and I'm ready to go home. Okay, so do you have a website you can recommend for exam questions like Exam Pro? Yeah, there's loads. Physics and Maths Tutor is probably the best organised, just for getting loads and loads of exam questions, loads of past paper questions. And when you use past papers, most of it's going to be relevant to the current spec because physics didn't just disappear or anything like that or be invented for these new specs. So yeah, Physics and Maths Tutor, it's great for GCSE and A Level. It's got organised by exam boards, and I know that's important to you guys, and you can see the mark scheme straight after. It's really, really useful actually. I really, really like that one. Okay, cheers. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and you probably are already. Hit the notification if you're watching this later and you want to make sure you watch it live. I don't know, I mean, I hope you're enjoying it. I'm thinking maybe twice a week is a kind of realistic aim, and maybe about this time on a Monday and a Thursday. So let me know how you feel about that. Or AQA and OCR. All right, thanks a lot.